Hello, and welcome to another episode of... Okay, I have to do everything by myself today. The Lume plot.
Yes, exactly. You are the singular Lume plotter.
Yeah, and the Lume plot.
Yes. Anyway, so we have a very interesting topic today.
Yeah. But before we start.
But before, we both have new watches. So we should talk about our new watches, right?
Tell me.
What did you get?
I have an idea of what you got.
Yes. For those that listened, I think it was a week or two ago, Ralph and I were live on the air discussing that I would buy his Pelagos 39 if he so chose. And actually, we said this quite a lot. And you always said no and no and no and no. And finally, apparently, I wore you down. Yep. I wore you down. So Ralph has agreed to sell me his Pelagos 39, and I have actually not removed it from my wrist since. So if I'm not mistaken, it's a week tomorrow. Oh, it's a fantastic watch. I love it. I would say there's only one issue that I have with this watch. And it is the 21 millimeter lug width. I wish it was 20.
Yeah.
Because I think it would have been such an awesome strap monster on NATOs. And I do like 20 millimeter NATOs more than 21 or 22, because even that 1 millimeter, you feel the heft, especially on the buckle side. 2 millimeters, you feel a whole lot. So I think, I'm going to put it on a 20 millimeter NATO and then just have a little bit of spring bar showing. But I think for now, I'm going to beat to hell this titanium bracelet because it's so nice. It's so shiny. It deserves to be deemed up.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you didn't want actually any of the other straps with it. So that's surprising. But hey, No,
I wanted this strap. This was the metal bracelet that I wanted. I'm fine with this. I don't need anything else. I knew that it was either going to be this bracelet or a NATO strap, and that's it.
Yeah, good. So I sold this, of course, to Martin, the titanium Pelagos, and I got my titanium Panerai back. Yeah, and I'm wearing it today. Of course, here it is. I have it on the black rubber strap at the moment, even though it has a slightly brown dial. It's a very dark brown dial here. And it's still as beastly as I remembered it. It's just fat and unapologetically big. It's 44 millimeters. It's 18 millimeters tall. It's just a complete clunker of a watch. Thankfully, it's in titanium, so it's not as heavy as you would think. But it's still heavy. So on the titanium bracelet, which is also quite cool, it's very nicely made with a bit of beveled edges. But it's a strap monster as well. Though it does have 24 millimeter lug width, obviously, because it's a Panerai. But it has this cool system, right, on the back, because it's after 2011. So it has these little pin holes. So you have this little tool, this plastic tool with two plastic pushers. So one you push the button in and the other one you push the spring bar out, basically. And it's a fixed long spring bar that has just a small ridge. And that way you can very, very simply with two plastic tools basically change the straps very, very easily and very quickly once you get a hang of it. This watch I bought from a dealer here as a new old stock watch. So even though this is from 2011, I have still warranty until 2030 something, because I bought it, I think, 2028. I bought it in
2028. Wow, you bought it in the future.
I bought it warranty until 2020 because I bought it in 2020. I sold it in 2021, late 2021, I think, and I'm buying it back now.
So this is your exact watch.
It is exactly I sold it to a friend, and I told my friend whenever he wants to sell it, let me know. He put it on Chrono 24. I saw his ad and I said, like, hey, I told you that first right? And he said, yeah, I'm trying to get a bit more money. And I said, okay, fair enough. I mean, he did so many good deals to me, for me, gave me so many access to so many nice Rolexes that I wouldn't have otherwise for list price. So that I decided, yeah, sure, try it. But here's my offer. See if it sells. And my offer was like the low ones at Chrono 24. So that means it's not too ridiculously low. It's just what you can buy it for, right? So, so anyhow, so I got it back and I love it. I'm happy that I have a Panerai back. So I don't know. It's a weird watch because it's so big and clunky, but somehow I missed it. And I have some really cool straps. I sold the watch with 9 straps plus the bracelet, so it had 10.
That's
and
crazy.
I got them all back. And of course, I bought a new one because 10 is not enough.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously.
Naturally.
Yeah. And then
Naturally.
Artem straps has these cool, these sailcloth straps, and they had an offer: buy one get one free. And I thought, well,
I thought it was buy 2 get 1.
no,
Oh, yeah,
this
that
is
is buy one,
actually
get one free.
this was buy one get one free for these.
Yeah, but buy 2 get
Panerais.
1.
No, it was buy one get one free. So but just pay one and you get 2. That's
Yes,
the
but
deal.
I just got into a very big argument with the Brands for Less people
Yes.
at Brands for Less because they told me it was buy 2 get 1. And I was like, so I need 3 things. And they're like, no, you buy 2 and we will give you one of those. And I'm like, that's buy 1 get 1. And we had a massive argument about this. They're telling me buy 2 get 1 means that out of those 2, 1 is counting. So now I'm
that's
confused.
open to interpretation, but I think they have applied this way that you pay full price for 1 and you get 2. So that means it's a 50% discount actually.
Yes, which I'm okay with. But either way, that's a good deal.
But
No, I just saw that they said, by the way, they just posted Artem that they had the buy 2 get 1 on their nylon straps.
Yes, correct. They have that
So
as well.
I don't know. That's why I was confused. I was like, are you saying it the wrong way? Was it actually buy 2 get 1? Did I misinterpret it? But yours is a different deal then.
Yeah, it was only for the Panerai straps, right? It was only for that they had this.
They're trying to
specialty.
shift those 28 millimeter lug width stuff
24.
out.
Yeah, I think, and I don't think they're probably continuing that. They have a lot of them are sold out, and I think they're just basically trying to sell them off. So I guess if I would have waited a bit, probably there would have been better deals for whatever is remaining in the colors, color
I think
choices.
so. Remember when D-Lugs did this for the Cartier Santos when they had to discontinue all that?
Correct.
And we just waited and waited, and the prices kept tumbling and tumbling and tumbling. Yeah. And then at the very end, they were just absolute peanuts. They were selling them for they had alligator straps that were originally like $300. They were selling them for $40. But of course, the color's here's a neon green alligator strap. And it only works on one watch.
It's a really weird violet color.
Yeah, there's
neon
some really
violet
ugly stuff.
Yeah, but
I mean, if you wanted one,
exactly, it's all a matter of taste. I wanted to say that we have to. First of all, I have to mention that this is a Panerai PAM 00352 Luminor Marina 1950 3 days titanium. So it has an extremely long name. But that's the name. Just for if somebody actually is interested in what kind of Panerai I have, that's the one. So Panerai Luminor 1950.
And if anyone's interested in what kind of Pelagos I have, it's a 39.
But we said that. That's already covered.
The 39.
39. It's
not
very
the Otto
simple.
Giorno Barilla pasta.
Blue, not the...
Yeah. By the way, did you know Barilla pasta or Barilla pasta? The guy was originally a Formula One driver?
No, I didn't know. No.
Yes. Apparently, if you had watched the last Formula One race, you would have noticed there was Barilla pasta logos everywhere. And the commentator said that this is actually a very interesting, kind of partnership here with F1 because...
Wait a second. The last race in Saudi had Barilla?
Yes, Barilla pasta everywhere.
Where did you watch it?
I watched on Apple on Formula One, F1 TV.
How can you get F1 TV here in the UAE?
You sign up for it. You go into F1 TV and you pay them.
No, they didn't allow this in the UAE. Is it new
Yeah,
now?
they have it now. I was on an American account, so I've had it for a while, but now it's available here as well.
Okay, because I had to sign up through what is it called? Todd? Be-in?
Yeah, Todd.
Yeah.
And I heard Todd
and
started.
depending on where you are, because all of this advertising is actually digital.
What's it called? Digital, yeah.
I did not see, I swear, I watched the race and have not seen a single Barilla advertisement.
So I was wondering whether this was the superimposed one or if it was actually real, because on some of the crash barriers, whatever you see is what you get.
Yeah, crash barriers.
So I'm not sure which type it is, but they went into a whole backstory. That Signore Barilla actually was the son of the Barilla pasta magnate, and he had one of the worst records in Formula One history. He was absolutely terrible. He quit and he went back to the pasta factory.
Okay. Well, and lived happily
but he
ever
did
after.
drive for Formula One.
Right.
So I think, let me see if I can find out who he drove for, because it is quite an interesting story. Barilla.
It is indeed. It is indeed.
Formula One. Paolo Barilla.
Paolo, and that's a nice name as well.
Yes, and there is a bunch of pictures of, So no, it must have been. They were talking about this in ad nauseum, and the first thing I notice here, by the way, is F1.com says F1 welcomes Barilla Pasta as an official partner.
Okay,
and that was 11 April. So I'm guessing that was real.
Interesting.
What's it called? But anyway, my let me find here's Paolo Barilla. He is a businessman and former Formula One driver, and he has 0 championships, 0 wins, 0 podiums, 0 career points, 0 pole positions, and 0 fastest laps. He drove for 2 years, 1989 and 1990, and he drove for where is it? For whom? Minardi.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing the pasta imperium.
Left Formula One to go work for his father at the pasta
But isn't it funny?
factory.
I mean, there's so many, of course, Italian companies that you know. What is this company that makes these canned foods? Not Del
Pomi, Motti,
Yeah, something. Not Mutti, not
Pomi, not Pomi, not
not
Motti.
Del
those-
Monte. There are just others. Yeah. Anyhow, so everybody has at some stage had Formula One sponsorships. I think, right? It's just incredible.
But this
Formula One is
this
really
funny.
popular in Italy.
But Barilla is actually like a really, really crap pasta if you ask the Italians, and this is why it's even funnier. I drove by the Barilla factory, and it looks like its box. It is giant, rectangular, and navy blue in color. It is.
Do you know that here on Sheikh Zayed Road we have the Emirates Macaroni Factory?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm very well aware.
And this
they ended up with fairly good real estate, I don't know. And
No,
also Pepsi.
it's because it's so old. It's there, but
Yes,
this was far outside the city.
Back in the day,
Yes,
And
back in the
Pepsi as
days.
well is still on Sheikh Zayed Road in a fairly good location.
I am pretty sure if they sell that piece of land, they can easily build 2 more macaroni factories somewhere in Jebel Ali.
Emirates macaroni. I still don't know how. I'm a huge advocate of Emirates macaroni because you buy a bag of pasta. It's like 4 dirhams.
Yeah.
How?
It's
How is it
locally
that
made
cheap?
because pasta is not so technically not so expensive. We are buying imported one, right? So it's more expensive. If you buy the local one, it's always good. Anyhow, I wanted to say that Deluxe also now has the first proper retail shop. They just opened in the home, let's say the birthplace of the Singapore Sling, the Raffles Hotel in Singapore. They have their own retail store, and it looks, from everything from the videos and the photos I've seen, it looks stunning. It looks super upmarket, like a luxury watch boutique. It's super cool, bright. They have everything there, all the materials, the straps, and lots of people helping you. And their feedback is it is so much more rewarding and nice if you can actually talk to people and have them try out different straps right there. Because he said the family came in, the mother wanted a new strap for her watch. their husband wore Rolex and said, "Oh, I don't need any straps." Rolex bracelet, right?
Yes.
And then they said, like, well, why didn't you look? I mean, it was some cool watch. I have not remembered what it was. Basically, the Ken from Deluxe shared the story in his WhatsApp group, and then I thought this is really cool because he said basically that this guy tried on one or two straps and was hooked. So he bought two as well, and then the kid bought one, and so basically the entire family bought straps.
I agree.
Just because you try them out, you see them, and you think, wow, that actually is really, really nice.
I think I would have saved a lot of money over the years with this if I was able to try them out.
Totally, me too. Because
I just right now, I told you about like 11 straps, right? From the ex-Hodinkee manufacturer. And honestly, I was just like, all right, just send me all the things and then I will figure out how many of them I like when I get it, right?
Yeah.
And this is the thing is if you get them in bulk like this, I'll spend 1,000 dirhams and I'll get 10 straps. Then it's kind of all right, I'll figure it out later. Otherwise, if it was full price, like, deluxe prices, 500 dirhams a strap, you're really committing to something there, right? If that color does not work for you, you're screwed.
The problem is for us, from us here, it's that just the sending back is so complicated for us.
Yes.
If we use the normal post, it's quite elaborate and it will take a long time. If you send a courier, then it's just not, it makes no sense financially, right, to send it back.
Yeah.
Right?
So I had my first two Emirates Post shipments got lost. So if you insure it, they will pay out. It took me 6 months, but they paid out. And then magically,
it still arrived.
A couple months. No, it arrived back to me.
Oh,
I have no idea how.
It got stuck somewhere.
Came back to me. And but the thing was, my address was not on it.
No.
Right? It was somewhere on it on a small piece of paper, but on, in big letters, I had written the address it was going to. So I think what happened is somehow it got torn off or something happened. And then I don't know what on earth happened, but long story short, they paid out. So they gave me, I would think it was 800 dirhams. They gave me in cash. And they gave the cost of the shipping back as well, which was also like 100 dirhams, right?
That's nice.
And then it still somehow managed to make it back. And then here's the kicker. Emirates Post VAT'd me and import dutied me on my own stuff. And I was explaining to them, this is already my stuff. Like, I don't need, it was already here and it went and then it came back. And then they're like, no, sir, you have to pay. And so I had to pay like 80 dirhams on VAT and crap for my own stuff.
Yeah, and this is the cool thing about the UAE. I mean, one of the cool things about the UAE. We both live here for decades, so we love it here, and it's a wonderful place to be. But the transparency if it comes to leadership sometimes is pretty cool. So this February, Sheikh Mohammed, our ruler of Dubai and Prime Minister of the UAE. Prime Minister of the UAE and Vice President, he announced the results of the best performing government
and
ministries
and
the worst performing three, right? After the first performance review. And he said, government bureaucracy is the art of turning simple matters into complicated ones. That's an original quote.
Absolutely.
And it's perfect because I know this from my dad who worked in the government ministry, that bureaucracy creates bureaucracy. So if you don't put the pressure on, every bureaucracy, about 7%, some consultants have figured that out, that 7% is the amount of complication that a bureaucracy creates by itself every year. So it just gets more and more and more if you don't cut it down in the complexity. So it's an ongoing fight because everybody thinks, this standard operating procedure, I can refine this a bit more, make a bit more words to it, make it a bit more, we have a German word, verschlimmbessern. That means you're trying to improve things but make them worse.
Yes.
And we have a single word that explains that. Anyhow, so he said that the post office is again it's
the worst performing.
It's not the first time it was in the worst performing bracket. So yeah,
but it's not just here. I think
no, that's
globally,
true. Yeah.
post offices are generally absolute garbage. But the fact is, here it's doubly bad because we have no addresses. We have no real, clarity on how delivery works. Every single
post
time we have
boxes
to.
that you have to rent. So if you have a villa, you usually
No.
you
That's
can
true.
get the little,
Exactly. Your PO box is fine. We understand PO boxes, but it's the actual home delivery.
Yeah,
with
but
the
you can
post
have a
office.
little box at home, but you have to pay for it from Emirates Post. You get
Can you?
you get a little box.
Because they
but
charge us. I don't know if we have this in Elaine, but
in Dubai,
generally they
you
give us
can
an
have that.
option, and they say you can either pick it up from the post office for free, or you can have it delivered to your house, and it's some additional like 20 dirhams.
So yeah, we have that as well. Even though we have because I'm living in an apartment building, so we have a PO box number, but that takes another 1 to 2 weeks until I get the notification in my little post box downstairs that there is something waiting for me, and they only keep it for 2 weeks. So it's not working well. So that's why they usually just bring it. But if you have a villa, you can have these little silver Emirates post boxes where you actually get post delivered. Like in other countries where you just get it thrown into the little post box at your house.
Would I trust it? I don't know. I
I
avoid
think
Emirates Post
me and my wife,
all
from
instances.
India and from Germany, we have both postal systems where you have basically in the entire country. Okay, Germany is a smaller country, but if you throw a letter in a post box, and it gets emptied at 6 p.m., it will arrive next day in the morning wherever you have in Germany, right?
Yeah.
So it's just basically 90% or 95% of letters arrive next day. In India, it's I think a maximum of 2 days, and that's a massive country. Right. So
but we know this about the how the chaiwalas were like, or not the chaiwalas. Was it the chaiwalas, or was it the other wallas?
These are the dabbawalas.
The dabbawalas were studied by Harvard on their efficiency, on how in the hell they're able to do this stuff. Because in all fairness, it's crazy how complicated those the number of meals delivered, the number of errors that they actually have. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I'm expecting we're more similar to the Indian side in terms of how this is actually organized and how things are delivered, as opposed to the German side, which I'm assuming is very, very punctual and very specifically done. And,
Yeah. So I mean, we have this kind of customer service in Germany where I once had, it was 2 minutes to 6, right? I think it was 6 o'clock. The post office closes at 6 at this. Was it 6 or was 4? I don't know. It was, opening times are government entities. They're not necessarily the most customer friendly. So back in the days, it's a long time ago. So the post person saw me coming with a package in my hand, walking to the door. And it was like a 10-meter corridor that he could see me going to the door. And he dashed to the door
to lock it.
So I couldn't get in because it was 2 minutes before closing time.
Yes,
and I looked at him and said, like, how can you do this, you bloody beep? I shouldn't say the expletive here, and he just shrugged and went his way. And I thought, like, that's customer service in a nice and hearty, friendly German way.
Yes, of course.
Oh, man.
Anyway, all right. Enough bureaucracy talk. Let's go on to our actual topic for today.
Yeah, and it's dangerous.
It is very dangerous.
Yeah.
So, for those of you that I may know, may not know, I wrote a book, right? I wrote a book specifically about the dangers of scams and frauds and so forth on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And it's available on Amazon. Shameless book plug.
Yes, you just search for Lume plotters.
What is it? Yeah, it's not written under Lume plotters,
Oh,
unfortunately.
no.
But it is called Surviving the Wild Wild Web. And then let me read it because I don't remember what the name was. A user's playbook to navigating the internet's trickiest terrains. In which book there is a chapter that I entitled...
This is shameless self-promotion here,
If
right?
you teach a man to fish being spelled with a PH, obviously, the mechanics of internet scams. So in this chapter, I go into a lot of the modern tricks that scammers are using to, essentially steal your data, steal your information. And that's kind of their 99%. The mentality is to get information. Information equals money. Now, I this morning woke up and I, as usual, sat down with my coffee and I turned on YouTube, and there was one YouTube video that was very interesting to me. It was called Scams and Frauds. And it was done by Amsterdam Vintage Watches, which is a vintage watch seller in Amsterdam. And they've been around for quite a long time. So they have a lot of experience in these scams. So I thought it would be very interesting to discuss some of the scams that they have in their last 20 years dealt with. Some of them are face-to-face scams. Some of them are online scams, and anything kind of in between. So I'll walk you through a number of these. And then, Ralph, you didn't watch the video, so you can comment on what you think.
Okay.
So, all right. The first one. This one was a very, very simple one. This is kind of what you would expect a face-to-face scam to be. And this is something that I have kind of always worried about. Guy comes in. Apparently, according to the skeet. So apparently, if you remember, in Europe, you have to bring a buzzer to get into these watch stores, right? Yeah. It's not like Dubai. The doors are not always open, right? You have to essentially buzz
like an
in.
Airlock, so you have two doors.
It's an airlock, exactly. So essentially, the idea is if shit hits the fan, they lock you in. And you're not going anywhere until the cops come. And that's kind of the idea. So they see this guy, he rings the doorbell. And they looked at him like, it's kind of a sketchy looking guy, but okay, we let him in. So he comes in. And he says, okay. He's apparently dressed very homeless. But then again, I dress homeless 99% of the time. So the guy said, I noticed there was a Rolex crown underneath his shirt sleeve, right? He said, on the crown itself, I saw the coronet. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, so he's got a Rolex on. Fine. And the guy specifically said, can I see your, he had a vintage sub, it was a 5513. I said, can I see that 5513? And so he hands it over. The guy's looking at it. Oh, okay, there's a box and papers, blah, blah, blah. And he's holding the watch. And then he gets a phone call. And when he answers the phone call, he said he walked to kind of like the window to kind of like be a little private, but he's still holding the watch. Mm-hmm. He's on the phone holding the watch. And essentially what had happened was while he did this, his back was to the salesperson. Yeah. And he had went back and he said, oh, it's an emergency. I got to go. Here's your watch back. Set it down on the thing. Can you buzz me out? And the guy's like, oh, okay, sure. And he buzzes him out. Guy leaves. The guy looks down at the table in front of him and it was not his watch. It was a different 5513, but it was a fake one. Yep. So apparently the guy had, while he was taking the phone call, swapped the real one, put it on his wrist, took his fake one off of his wrist, swapped the two out, and Bob's your uncle, and he ran away.
See, this is I think these kind of scams are for me in this category, if I have to categorize them, of bit of sleight of hand to a certain extent, right? So there's like a magician. It's illusions, right? You think you get your watch back, but it's not yours.
But you don't think, it doesn't process it, right? You don't process this until it's too late.
Yeah, it looks like yours, right? I mean, you've seen sometimes the security videos of shop assistants when people are looking at jewelry and stuff, where they never leave, anything on the table, even if they turn around to pick something up or so. They always have their hands over things or close or take things back, because the moment you turn your back, it could be gone, it could be replaced, and you would not know. Because sometimes if you are, for example, Amsterdam Watch, this vintage watches shop, they have pictures of their watches online, high definition pictures. So that means probably even the amount of links that the watch has attached to it. right?
We'll get into that in a moment.
I'm just saying.
But this is very true because the guy came in specifically asking for this watch.
Correct.
He knew from the online website that this watch was there, and he knew that he had a fake version, so he could swap this out.
And how are we dealing with people very often as well, one-to-one? When we sell privately a watch, send me pictures, send me a video, send me exactly how the watch looks. And you think that is a very innocent thing because you want to know the condition of the watch before we actually meet, right? Before we have a deal. So technically, somebody could also think, all right, I know now your watch. I know how many links it has. I am getting a fake one of the same amount. Put the same amount of links left in, 12 and 6, and then trying to just scam you. The other thing you can do is like with cash, right? When people put cash in an envelope, right? And that you count the money, it's real money, it's all fine. They put it in an envelope, whatever, you look away,
and
you get an envelope, but
that
envelope you get is not the one with the real money, but with fake money or with something else in it, right? So many things that you have to be super careful with because scammers and these con men, and that's the one thing that we can all fall for them because they are so convincing.
Exactly.
That's because, they do what they do.
I will tell you two more similar stories. Now we're on to Chrono 24 scams.
Okay.
Because, of course, this guy, Amsterdam Vintage Watches, used to sell on Chrono 24. They said, we have stopped doing this for this specific reason.
Oh, right.
And here's two examples.
Okay.
One, they had a solid gold, white gold Submariner.
Mm-hmm.
A guy bought it, wired the money. And if you know, Chrono has the money in an escrow for X amount of time, right? So the guy paid. They shipped the watch. And the guy says, you know what? I'm going to return it. And this is kind of how the escrow works, is they hold it. You have X amount of days to return the watch. And if you do return it, you get your money back.
Mm-hmm.
So the guy said, okay, we'll take the return. And the guy sent it back.
Yeah.
And what had happened? They had swapped out the links, the white gold links with the same polish. So they polished center link stainless steel ones. And of course, Chrono had already given the guy his refund. And they're like, these aren't the links. The guy swapped out the links. And Chrono 24 says, okay, prove it. And they said, how are we supposed to prove this?
Yeah.
And essentially they said, we took a loss on that one. It was about $500 a link. The guy stole 5 of them. So essentially he got away with $2,500, euros, whatever, in links. Because, once again, whether they're fake or real, it doesn't matter. But he returned it with the exact same number of links, even polished to the same amount that their watch was.
Yeah.
And he said, if we wouldn't have checked it, 99% of the time, he says, hey, we don't really check links. So we looked over it and something didn't seem right.
Yeah. Can you imagine how much money
he said, imagine if I went to sell that watch again.
Yes, you would. You would be the scammer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he said that was really sketchy. So that was their first strike with Chrono 24, where they said this is not going to end well in our favor. The second time,
wait,
they sold the watch.
Just one thing in between there before I forget it. I think this is specifically problematic for vintage watches because production technologies have come such a long way. We can now reproduce, 3D print and artificially age things so well nowadays that the more simpler production technologies back in the days can easily be replicated, or much easier than back in the days, obviously. So they're not as sophisticated. So I think it's actually quite tough, especially with vintage watches, to deal with these kind of people, right? Sorry, next topic.
No, in the same vein, the next one was the buyer, very similar to the first story, but this is a mix of first story and second story. Buyer buys a watch.
Mm-hmm.
They send it. Within the return period, he opts to return it.
Yeah.
He returns it. And essentially, he returns a fake. Okay. Now, here's why it gets more interesting. With the vintage watches, the serial number was engraved between the lugs.
Yes.
not in the rehaut. And what does this guy do? He has the real watch in hand. He engraves the serial number, the real watch's serial number, onto the fake watch.
Sure, because you have it.
So,
right?
Yeah, you have it. You can duplicate everything. So he duplicates the watch while it's in his hand, returns it before the return window closes, and then they get this watch back. And essentially, they call Chrono 24 and said, yeah, this is not our watch. And Chrono 24 says, prove it. Show us the serial numbers. And they're like, but the serial numbers are the same.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, then that's not proof. So essentially, once again, the things that Chrono 24 goes for is facts, serial numbers, right? Things like this. And they're like, once again, like there's no negotiating with them. And therefore, once again, they were out and they said, this is when we stopped selling on Chrono 24.
Yeah, I think, as a dealer, obviously you should think you're a bit more protected than a person.
Exactly. Yeah.
But you are not, apparently. And it's, for a customer, it's always good to be protected against scamming dealers because
within
they
reason.
might also exist, of course, right? But yeah, it has to be. This is why these platforms have to be real investigators to a certain extent, right? So that it's not easy. Who do you trust? And I saw this on one of these videos of Luxury Bazaar, right there, Roman Scharf and these guys, how they actually explained their security, that they have everything on camera. You know, the packaging. Everything has cameras on top, on the left, on the right. So you basically see the sealing of the boxes and everything until it's handed over to the delivery person. They have everything on record from the moment they put the watch into any kind of packaging material.
Yeah.
For these reasons,
and once again,
right?
But the thing is, you have this, but it's not as...
It wouldn't have helped in this case either.
No, because what are you going to show? Here's a watch going into a box.
Exactly.
It looks the same. And this is the same thing with the links. They look the same. This is all we know is there's this many links, right? And if that many links came back, then there's no proving whether it was stainless steel or gold.
Yeah, it is really unbelievable to see what actually people do, right?
It's crazy.
And
there are two more stories.
Okay.
Next, we'll go into one that is fairly reasonable. I'm trying to remember how many stories he still had. So this was a very simple one. Essentially, guy calls, and this is the Nigerian prince style, scam. Guy calls, I would like to buy XYZ watches from you. I will wire you the money, and I will send somebody to pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, in this case, apparently what had happened was somebody did come to pick up the watches, and they had boxed it up and everything was ready to go. And then the guy said, something's just not right, because the guy was not negotiating. He didn't ask any questions about the watches themselves.
Yep.
He just said, I want these watches, box them up. I'm wiring the money. And essentially the guy had wired the money before he had even confirmed that the watches were even available, right?
Ooh.
And the guy's like, this is kind of sketch. And in addition, the guy said, he wired slightly more as a, tip, so to speak. So he said the watches were around 29,000 euros, and the guy had wired 30. Exactly three. So he's like, why would he do this? So anyway, when the guy ended up coming, they had called the authorities and told the authorities something doesn't add up, right? Like, you guys do the research. Well, it turns out what had happened was they had a kind of a call center where they were scamming elderly people. And they would tell the elderly people that your a bank account has been hacked. Somebody has access to it. So what you need to do is remove the money from that bank account, transfer it over to us for the time being, so that the scammers, the fake scammers, cannot access your account any further and cannot steal any more money from you. So these elderly, okay.
No.
So they tell them specifically, you need to wire all your money to this specific account.
Mm.
And then that's how they would say, okay, wire 30,000 euros to this watch dealer's account. And that's how this ended up happening. And the reason, the other sketchy thing, the way that they had caught this guy was the other thing, when they got the incoming wire transfer, the name of the guy was extremely Dutch.
Right.
And they did some digging, and the guy was elderly. Yet the one that was on the phone was clearly not Dutch. And then the guy that came to pick up the watch was also not Dutch. So they're like, these are essentially 20-something-year-old,
Doesn't add up, yeah.
It doesn't add up. So they were also confused with this. So ended up, they arrested the guy who was there to pick up the watches. Turns out it was a courier, like one of these random couriers. The main guy had given him 500 euros to just go pick up these watches, no questions asked.
Yes, of course.
So essentially they wired this money from this old man's account without him knowing anything about it, right? He was just thought he was helping or saving his own money. So they had scammed him into wiring his money too.
Good on them that they figured it out, man. It must be such
So they said that this just didn't sit right. They didn't feel right. And, once again, they said they'd been in the industry for like 15 years at this point, and it just didn't add up. And that something was not right. So they...
Yeah, also I think with vintage watches specifically, you deal with a specific kind of customer, right? So
clientele,
usually pretty knowledgeable, they have been also been around. It's not the 20-something-year-olds necessarily that are going to buy a vintage Submariner from 50 years before they were born. It doesn't make much sense. So I think you get a nose for it. I mean, that's just a feeling for it.
Once again, he said that the fact that the money was more than what the price was already a red flag for them. Nobody's tipping you for selling a watch, essentially.
Like, hey, know what? Let me give you a bit more.
Yeah, just in case.
Sure.
I've seen this, but I've seen a lot of these scams when this used to happen on WhatsApp when I would post something on Facebook Marketplace, and they would say, I will give you more, but you will have to ship it to me in frickin', God knows where in Pakistan. And I'm like, no, I'm good. Thank you though. Right. And these are always a scam. They will try to get, fake the money somehow. They want you to ship an item without them paying. Yeah.
Or they pay you because sometimes these transfers, there's a certain different transfers. Some transfers can be revoked, right?
Yeah.
So,
so you'll see the money, but then it goes away.
But they're not 100% credited, right? So you have to wait a couple of days. I think after like 7 days you're safe, but before that you're actually not really safe because it can be revoked. Depends on which country you're in, what kind of transfer it is.
In UAE, how does this work?
I don't know. I don't know if it's even possible in the UAE, but in general,
because we rely on a lot of these transfers when we pay for watches, right? So, I'm curious. If I sell a watch and somebody wires me money, I always wondered, could they revoke it? Like,
I think
because once again, we're not doing any paperwork with this, right? Like, there is no bill of sale.
There's a lot of trust. There's a lot of trust that you have here. Yeah, but in generally, I think you could potentially, but it's not so easy. You have to really argue everything with your bank why it was the wrong recipient or whatever. So, and there's of course records of it, right? So here locally, you have the record of where it came from, so you can go to the authorities and say like, "Hey, that's what happened from this account. It came." So,
and you have their phone number, who they're messaging.
So there's a lot of, but still, it could be a problem. That person could be, already out of the country once you figure that out. But what I also feel that you have to be really careful is, and this is why that's why I very often by myself don't really want to buy from people that are not trusted. In our watch groups, we at least have some person that you can vouch for it. I mean,
but even had this then happening. It's not 100%.
No, but at least you have other people who say like, yeah, I've already dealt with this person. It's reliable. Everything is good, right? And if you don't find that, then you know that you're taking a risk, right? So you have to be extremely cautious. But if I have a reference check, and 3 or 4 people saying like, yeah, no problem, it's a trustworthy person, then you can be a bit more safe. But that's why I think a lot of people go for watch dealers here. because you know where the shop is, right? I mean,
not everyone is also in a position like us where we have a watch group, where we have hundreds of people that we can buy from and sell to. But even then, it's sometimes not enough, right? So, which I had this with Timepiece 360, right? I tried to sell 3 watches. I couldn't find a single buyer. Timepiece 360 within a week sold all 3.
Different reach, different audience. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. So, all right, last story. I think it's the last story. I think I might be forgetting one. There was something.
That's okay.
I don't know.
You don't have to do all of them. Just
we'll go into this. Was the most interesting one because it came from UAE. So he gets a phone call from a guy in the UAE, and he's told that this guy works for such and such sheikh, and that he is the sheikh's, kind of second in command, and the sheikh would like to buy such and such watches for his birthday. He gives the exact model number. Both are in stock. One was a Leopard Daytona. If you know the Leopard Daytona, that one is a super rare, super expensive model. The one with the leopard dial.
The one that Nicolas Cage had?
I think so. Yeah. So that was one. And the other one was some complicated gold Nautilus. So these 2 things. And the guy was like, it was kind of sketchy because it was already the 2 most expensive watches in our catalog, right?
Yeah, sure.
So the guy says, I'll take both. We need to get them out by the sheikh's birthday, which is, he said, whatever, we'll say a day, May 1st. So guy hangs up the phone. He said, I will wire you the money. And he said, well, I thought nothing of this. And he essentially went on with his day. And he said 2 weeks went by. I didn't think twice. I never thought about it again. Then he gets a call from his bank saying that there is a incoming wire transfer for 250,000 euros. Does he approve this? And it's from such and such. Before this, before this, when the sheikh's guy called, he asked for an invoice, and the guy's like, okay, but I haven't sold you anything, but sure, I'll make you an invoice. And he said, basically no serial numbers, nothing, very plain. He just put the watches on there. Here's the invoice. And it had an invoice number. So when the bank calls, he says,
you can do that. Yeah,
exactly. So he gets this, and he said, there is incoming wire transfer for €250,000 euros for you. And he said, I don't think that's mine. He goes, but there's an invoice number here. Do you want to check it? And he said, okay, let me look. And he looked at the invoice number and realized that it was this invoice. So he's like, oh, yeah. Okay, let it come in. That's fine. And then he's like, I started packing up the watches. And then I realized, when has the bank ever called me for an incoming wire transfer to approve an incoming wire? He said, I've had wire transfers far greater than this, and it just shows up. Nobody calls you. So he called his phone number for his bank. There was no wire transfer. There was nothing. And then the guy calls and says, did you receive the money? Did you receive it? Is everything good? Did the bank call you about the wire transfer? So the guy was hoping that before he would notice, he would ship out the watches.
Of course. And then you cannot.
Yeah. And then
once you realize
the bank had called. Yeah. So it was essentially this kind of spoofing.
Unbelievable how creative people get if trying to steal money from you.
It's amazing. If they would take this and apply this amount of knowledge and curiosity and creativity to something useful, they could get pretty far. It's I always say this with my students, the amount of time and effort they put into cheating, if they would put the same amount of time into actually learning the material, they would get A's. But no, they prefer to come up with new ways to cheat.
Look, I have put all of the contents in my programmable calculator.
I did that. This was my thing.
Took me
back in the day.
15 hours to do this.
I was literally programming for I don't even know how long. And by the time I programmed the calculator, all of the equations that I put in, I'd memorized them all, right?
Yeah.
So this is the funny thing. You end up memorizing everything when you're trying to cheat. No, the best one was my best cheating method, speaking of cheating, was in university. iPods had just become the big hit thing. So everybody had an iPod, but no one knew that you could use the iPod as a hard drive, an external hard drive, right? So you could put documents onto it and essentially use the iPod as a text editor or text reader. So I had convinced the professor to let me listen to music during the exam because it calms me. And he said, yeah, sure. Because once again, these were singular devices. Like you could listen to a Walkman and it's not going to do anything, right? Unless you go and that's the other thing I thought is you could record yourself.
Yes, of course. You could just say all of the things.
But nonetheless, the guy said, sure. And then I was just scrolling through the little click wheel and I had everything in a Word document imported onto my iPod. So
yeah, nowadays, obviously with our multifunctional devices.
I remember this class. This was astronomy. And I don't know the single first thing about astronomy. And this is probably why.
Astronomy, you had this in university?
Yeah, I was a engineering major and we had to take certain physics classes. And one of them was astronomy for some reason.
Oh, okay.
No idea.
Well, as long as it's not astrology.
No, it was astronomy. But we remember in astronomy, the biggest topics were kind of gravitational pull and this kind of stuff. So it was useful when calculating, gravitational forces and stuff. So.
Well, I have all my astronomy knowledge from science fiction movies and books.
Yes, exactly.
So how many parsecs?
I thought about this, by the way, just the other day. This guy, Evan from You're Terrific, the YouTube channel. He always makes very funny jokes about his wrist size, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was always like 7-inch wrist. I have a 7-inch wrist, always saying 7-inch wrist, right? And he said, in the latest video he posted, he said, my wrist is the answer to the universe and whatever, everything. What was it? What was it saying?
All the rest.
Of Hitchhiker's Guide.
Yeah.
What was it? The answer to the universe and the meaning of the universe. I don't remember what the exact quote was.
The answer to life, the universe, and everything, right? I think something like that.
He said divided by 6. So
yes.
Exactly true.
Answer to the
Very
ultimate
correct.
question of life, the universe, and everything.
Yes. Yeah. So he said, which of course is 42, right? 42 is the answer.
42
and
is the answer.
I thought I was going to give a bonus because I have my final exams in my classes coming up, right? I was like, I want to give a bonus. And I was thinking the question would be, what is the answer to the, to life, the whatever and everything. And the correct answer would be 42. And if anybody got that, I would give them a bonus.
Yeah.
But sadly, I don't think anybody would get this because I don't think any of these kids reads Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy or even watch the movie for that logic,
Yeah, I think this
is a little bit above them.
Yeah.
This is not their generation anymore.
Look, yeah, I told you the story that I emailed with Douglas Adams, right? Back in the days when I read it in school. I was about 16, 17 or so. Got my first CompuServe account. AOL CompuServe was just around, right? I still had a 5-digit CompuServe number, which was, well, before they got international, right? Anyhow, so I managed to have this account so international email could be sent. So I saw in one of his books that he had his email address on it. Right? If you want to write me, use my email address because he was very, futuristic. He was a writer, but that was a time when you still had your email address in your book.
Yeah.
So contact me. So obviously I just did that in my school English.
And he responded.
We had a nice exchange of things that obviously I haven't saved, unfortunately. And then a couple of years later, he died. So it was really sad because I loved his books and that was a time when I said, look, we need more stuff. And he said, don't worry, there's something coming out. And then you'll like it. And that was, I think, Dirk Gently's holistic whatever stuff. And I didn't really like it that much.
I don't know that one. But it's funny because I told you that I also was emailing with a very famous author.
And that was?
Jason Heaton from the Grey NATO.
Oh, right.
Jason Heaton wrote
Jason,
2 books, and they were both
Yes.
actually very, very, very good books. I have read A Depth Charge, I don't know, like 3 times already. And then Sweetwater, it's 2 times through. But anyway, long story short, I emailed the Grey NATO and Jason responded very kindly.
It's nice.
So I see myself, I was just thinking about that. Like the fact that they have the Grey NATO and one of them is an author that writes books. We are essentially the same.
Yeah.
I wrote a book. So therefore I am Jason Heaton and you're James Stacey.
Yeah, totally.
We are
I also
essentially
look
the
like
same.
James Stacey.
Yes. And all the commercial diving that we do, right?
No. And I'm the person who's only talking, like James Stacey as well, right? It's just talking. I'm not writing anything. I'm just appearing in podcasts.
But the funny thing is, I think both of them are very avid divers. So I still want to go diving. I think this winter we're going to Croatia, and there is a dive shop right next to the house we're renting. So we're going to be there for.
Don't you need to have a license first?
No, this is the
you will
diving
do the
school. So I think I will do the license there because we're going to be there for like 8 days, and I'm like, what else am I going to do for 8 days?
So yeah,
go take a couple hours a day and go learn to dive.
I mean, there was a time when all my colleagues did a diving course, and went here to the Jumeirah Beach Hotel and did it in the pool, and just did all of the courses to actually get the PADI thing. I think you need to PADI whatever for the saturation, not saturation.
And we only know what PADI is from Seiko.
Yes, exactly. The PADI. Exactly. That's when I heard, that's a PADI course, and I was like, Seiko? What do they have to do with that?
Why does Seiko offer diving classes?
Anyhow, so but then I snorkel, but obviously it's not the same because you're not getting that deep, not that long. But I love it. It's really, really cool. And I thought, it's lovely if you can just stay down there, right?
Yeah, exactly. I would love to do this. So we'll
So
see.
calm.
My brother and I have always talked about this. And the last time we were in Fujairah, and he wears glasses, and his glasses wouldn't fit under the goggles, and he didn't have any contacts, and he's like absolutely blind without glasses.
Right.
So there was no point in going any further then. So I told him, pack your freaking contacts. We're going to go diving. So we'll see if the dive shop is open in the winter, because I don't know if it's open year round or not, but we shall see.
Yeah, do it.
So, and I'll take the Pelagos just for
Of
that.
course. I mean, it is the proper diver.
Exactly. It is. It is.
Absolutely.
And I was watching, because now that I have the watch in hand, right, I had to watch all of the YouTube videos over again.
Yeah.
And James Stacey was talking about this, and he said his favorite of all the Pelagos family, because he just did, by the way, yesterday, he published the new article about the Pelagos Ultra. And he was saying essentially that like the 200 does everything. Like no one will need anything beyond the 200, except for maybe like 0.01% of the people.
Then they don't wear a watch when they go that deep.
They do, actually. So some of these guys, they will not be wearing
as a backup.
As a backup. It's always as a backup. Yeah. And generally speaking, these guys are not wearing Rolexes. They're wearing frickin' Seikos.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're wearing something that if they drop it, if they lose it, they are not going to bat an eyelash at.
Exactly.
But he said specifically, right, the maximum depth allowed is 40 meters.
Yes.
Like, what the hell? 200 is going to cover you for everything. If you're down below, so apparently to go under 40, you have to get very special permission.
Yeah.
And then you can go under to, I think, a maximum depth of 100. And that is like with extreme, permissions. Yeah. And then below that, you're a saturation diver, essentially.
Exactly. And I can tell you that my new Panerai has 300 meters.
Exactly. So once again,
this is very important. But it doesn't even have a dive bezel, so it doesn't matter.
But those never do. So that wasn't the point,
just a time,
right?
Right?
It's just supposed to work underwater, right? And then if you wanted to check the date, you could do that as well.
Yeah. By the way, we are recording this on the 1st of May. So it is one of these bloody days where you have to set all the watches that don't have annual calendars or perpetual calendars.
I don't have to set anything. My
because
Grand Seiko is dead. I have one. I have the Grand Seiko, but it's dead. I haven't worn it in quite some time because I got this watch now and I'm wearing it every single day. Now, because I got this watch, I will have to sell my Oris. The Hodinkee Oris, the green Diver 65 will go bye-bye. So if anybody's interested, let me know. I'm willing to do a very good deal to get it gone. But I'm a little sorrowful, heartbroken to sell it because it was so much trouble getting that thing. Remember how much pain I went through with Hodinkee and how stupid they were and all that nonsense.
It wasn't easy, but what can you do, man?
I'm going to stick to my one in, one out policy, so that's what goes.
I think it's a good idea. I mean, look, I had also some incomings and that's thankfully some outgoings, so it's okay. But I need to. I think I had so many watches change until now. It's 1st of May. And this is in a year where I didn't actually think of that there will be much happening in my collection. You never know.
My collection, as you guys know, I halved it. Yeah. We have gone from 10 to 5. No, technically 6 with the Pelagos, but it was a ridiculous thing with a huge overturn of a lot of stuff. And I think the only watches that remained, the original watches, right, was the JLC, the Explorer, and the Speedy. And that was it. And I found a picture from way back. Many, many years ago. And I said, you know what? Like, if I could only keep 3 watches, these would be the 3 that I keep. And I posted that on Instagram a long, long time ago, forever ago. And here I am. And I'm like, I actually followed through. Okay. I kept the 2 additional watches, of course, are the 2 Tudors now.
Yeah.
But still, it's.
I just by chance got a picture of my watch collection from 2022. And I looked at it recently and I thought, oh, that was actually not so bad.
Yes, you mentioned this last time as well.
Yeah, I had some good watches. It's funny,
if it wasn't in in the same box that you'd be like, whose collection is this?
Yeah,
this is quite nice.
This is good. Yeah. So anyhow, it's changed and I'm not unhappy, but I thought actually, now when you look back, why did I change so much? But yeah, I think it's okay. I mean, I'm happy the way I am now with my collection where I am. But sometimes you just have to spur in the moment and you think like, oh my God, I can get this watch because I have this one and this one. I let them go and I can get this. But do you really want it? Right? Is it really?
I agree.
Sometimes it's just because you can doesn't mean you should. Right? So it's sometimes you have these spur of the moment things when you think, oh yeah, So now, for example, I would think, would I have gotten, knowing that what I know now, that I've, at some stage.
Knowing what we know now, we could have saved a lot of money.
Yeah, that I could have gotten the blue overseas at some stage. Would I have gotten the silver dial overseas? Probably not. I would have kept the Sky Dweller and also my 56, right? But anyhow, so things go back and forth sometimes because you only know what you know at the time. So don't beat yourself up if you are in the same situation, because at the time it made the most sense because that was the information you had.
Yep.
Things always change. So thank you for listening.
Yes.
And don't get scammed. Don't get scammed. Exactly. All the best. Bye-bye.
All right. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.